Welcome to the 100 Club. You are back alongside your newest cricketing fan community. I'm Tom, joined once again by Oli.
Hello.
And the charmingly pink Rich.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Very well. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm feeling a bit sweaty. It's broken into summer somehow here in Scotland, but we're enduring.
Can you send it down here?
Yeah.
I've seen some of the fog cast over the T20 games this evening, but no, we're all right. And as usual, it is still broad daylight into the evening, and so it'll be a lovely day for a game of cricket. But no, I'd rather be talking to you, talking about the Manchester Originals, and we're going to do the men's squad tonight. And this is a squad that's not suffered, but has certainly seen a lot of change since the original draft, ins and outs, and maybe we'll get into that a bit. But one of those that has come in is one of their overseas stars that I'd like to start with. And that is Nic Pooran, or Nicholas Pooran, the West Indian. Fantastic talent, batter, but also a wicketkeeper as well. And he's going to be coming across for pretty much a good chunk of the format at least. What do I like about Nic Pooran? Well, he's an interesting story in himself. He's been quite a big star of the game, having been discovered at the age of 17. But then in 2018, had to take 2 years out of the game complete. Not through his own fault, I don't think. I wasn't there, Gov. But it had a terrible car crash, smashed up his knee and ankle, and then took out a couple of years. And then was re-engaged into the IPL straight off the back of it for the Mumbai Indians, and went back in, didn't play a game, but has then since taken pretty much every opportunity he can to get into franchise cricket around the world, and has done pretty successfully so.
Well, he did miss 4 games in 2019 after he pled guilty to ball tampering. But other than that, through no fault of his own.
Yeah. He's a competitive type.
Likes to win.
Yeah, likes to win. Nothing has exemplified that more, though. And yes, he has his faults in that sense. I hope he's grown up and got over it. Nothing has shown his competitive type more than perhaps one of my favourite ever cricketing highlights, which is his bit of fielding that he pulled off for the Kings 11 Punjab in the UAE last year. Did you see it?
Yes, incredible.
I've seen it.
Describe
it. Worth looking up.
No, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll stick a link up just above us now. Go and someone else's YouTube video. You'll be permitted to leave at some point. Open it in a new tab. Go and check it out. Essentially, crunching 6 is going to land about 9 feet over the boundary. Pooran throws himself Superman style, and about a couple of inches from the ground before any of him hits the ground is flicking it backwards sufficiently to save not just a boundary, but also a couple of runs with it. Amazing bit of fielding.
Yeah. Bowler still chuntering that it was a drop catch.
Yeah. Well, absolute personal highlight. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of that kind of athleticism around the Old Trafford boundary rope, and hopefully not into the crowd because they'll eat him alive. Who have you had a look at for this one, Rich? Who's the youngster you've got an eye on?
Yeah, so a few different ones we could have picked here. And I've gone for a player who might not necessarily get in the starting 11 straight away, and we'll touch on that. But I think it's quite an interesting story. So Tom Lammonby is a Somerset all-rounder who is 21 years old. He only really came into the first-class game last year as a result of the truncated season that sort of thrust a lot of younger players into the limelight. And he ended up coming into Somerset's first team of the Bob Willis Trophy in red ball cricket, and then carrying on and sort of making his way in the T20 stuff as well. And on the basis of that, has got himself a 100 contract, which is quite impressive. Hasn't played a lot of T20 this year. He is an all-rounder, hasn't bowled much, and would have batted tonight if Somerset hadn't won by 10 wickets. But yeah, he's a tall left-handed batter, left-arm medium pace bowler. Got a long future ahead of him, and I think it'd be interesting how he goes in this tournament to see whether he gets an opportunity or two.
Yeah, as an avid Somerset follower myself, he is a very good batter to watch, but he hasn't had the best season this year, it's fair to say. So I'll be hoping that the 100 sort of kicks him back into his 2020 form.
Yeah, I guess we'll do squads shortly, so I'll be interested to see whether you've put him in your squad, Tom, and whether you think he's going to be in the starting. starting.
Well, ultimately, that power will lie with you, Ollie. It's you with the tea leaves tonight.
Yeah, you're gonna have to make a pitch for your local boy.
Maybe. We'll see. But before that, who's going to be coaching the Originals?
So Simon Katich is head coach. Name be familiar, I guess, to a lot of people. Obviously, played in some very successful Australian sides. I was quite surprised that that Katich sort of translated his batting style into being a successful T20 player. Kind of if you just looked at him sort of as a test player, sort of slightly crab-like shuffling, kind of not a graceful kind of player to watch, and not one that I ever really associated with sort of scoring quick runs.
I thought you were going to translate Katich into something else. I don't know what language you were going to do that, but yeah, it's a fair point.
Yeah, but then he played in the first Big Bash series. I think captained the Perth Scorchers. I think they won that first series. So he's kind of obviously knows his way around kind of short format cricket. And has then gone on to do coaching in the IPL. I think he's been assistant coach out there for quite a while. Been coaching side out in the Caribbean as well. So yeah, so sort of built his reputation as a T20 coach kind of around the franchise around the world. Without sort of being one of the players that you kind of would be first name in terms of sort of T20 specialist really. So I guess obviously he has a good cricket brain. Has been able to translate what he knows about all formats into the short format.
How do I get a job as a T20 coach? It seems quite...
Sounds a good gig, doesn't it?
Yeah, 3 months in Australia, then off to England, then off to India, then Caribbean for a few months.
Well, I think in Katich's case, I guess in Katich's case, you started off having a gig as a player in the IPL. So, maybe if you start on that, get down the nets, then be in the right place at the right time.
To get that, I have to start off being a test player for England. So maybe a long journey.
Route. There must be another route that looks at a successful cricket pundit in podcast, and if that's the case, then we're all going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I guess it's interesting when you compare the men's coaches generally with the women's coaches. Most of the women's coaches, kind of have played cricket, but not necessarily at the highest level, and then have sort of been much more, down a sort of a route of of learning coaching, sort of going through the ECB system, and sort of working their way up as a coach. On the men's side, it's much more common for a player to perhaps still be playing and then take on some assistant coaching role, and then when they decide to hang up their gloves, take on a head coach role. So interesting how the paths seem to be different in the two men's and women's games.
Well, it's fair to say. I mean, he's had a few players to deal with since he was announced as the coach, and that they seem to have gone through more players than I've had hot dinners, and they haven't yet to step on a pitch. I don't know if We've done a video about the draft, but when they went into the draft process for 2021, the franchise were able to decide how many players they would retain, and the Manchester Originals, basically rebuilt most of the entire squad. So yeah, he's had 2 goes at picking this team. So we'll see if his second squad is better than his first.
Very much played the wild card in
Premier
League terms.
And not all of those changes have been of his own making, though. So Kagiso Rabada, we know, has dropped out fairly recently, and we'll see his replacement shortly. But in Lockie Ferguson, but also he's changed the shape in terms of, he had 2 spinners, Imran Tahir and Mitch Santner, and now he's gone for Pooran and Shadab Khan instead. So there's a bit of a flavour change. So
maybe he knows something about what the pitch is looking like and his instructions to his groundsman.
But one constant he's had all along has been Jos Buttler, and I think I'm going to nip right in and put him at the top of the order at the batting.
Well, I mean, this is intriguing, right? Because we're recording this on 28th of June. We've heard the news today that he has a calf tear. We already knew he was out the Sri Lanka series, but now it's been revealed he's going to be out the Pakistan White Ball series as well. And the idea behind that is that he's ready on the 4th of August for the first test against India. So that would mean that he's sort of coming back to fitness round about the first week of the 100.
Yeah.
I wonder whether the ECB are going to risk him in the 100 if he's doubtful for the first test. I think they might. I think the Manchester Originals might have to do without him for that first couple of weeks of the tournament.
I guess it's one of those where it'll either be right, just get some cricket, go and test it out. Playing a short format game just to make sure you really are fit. Or is it, as you say, is it too risky and he's just held back and kind of wrap him in cotton wool until the start of the India test?
Well, because he missed the New Zealand test at the start of the year, didn't he? So
yeah.
I still think he's going to. If there's half a chance, he's going to open. So he's going to be on my list.
Yeah, if he's available.
If he's on the pitch, he's opening. Yeah, but
does he keep you, Tom? Does he keep you?
I think he does. Yeah, and one of the reasons might be that if he's a little bit injured, you probably don't want him running around in the deep or around in the covers. So get him standing up. That's fine.
I thought it was quite interesting because I had him opening with Phil Salt. The Sussex wicket-keeper batsman, who I think is also a good keeper too. He's played a lot of franchise cricket. He actually he played for Barbados Trident. I hadn't realised he grew up in Barbados. He was born in Wales, but moved out to the Caribbean at a young age.
I did not know that.
That's good.
I thought the Caribbean wicketkeeper you might have gone for was Nic Pooran. But
that's the option as well. I think you already alluded to it when you were describing him. Pooran is a fantastic outfielder. And actually Buttler played in the outfield for the Royals in the IPL earlier this year. And was actually quite effective kind of boundary rider because he's very fast, safe pair of hands as well. So I think there's a bit of a dilemma to be met there, and I wouldn't be surprised if Phil Salt gets the gloves. But I think Buttler, as the senior pro, gets to make that decision. But I would open with Buttler and Salt. I don't know whether you had a different view there.
Let's try the right view. If I click the right button, there we go.
Right. Here we go.
So no, I've gone with what you've said there so far. And Buttler, Salt, Pooran, was it a 3?
Yeah.
I actually had Buttler and then Joe Clark opening with Salt at 3 and Pooran at 4. And I guess
we'll make it then to the chairman of selectors.
He's a fantastic youngster. Again, another one who can keep as well. Interesting. We haven't really thrown him in that mix as well, but he's in good form.
You don't have to open the batting if you're a keeper.
No. So essentially, they got 4 identical players.
Yeah.
Is that hard?
No,
are they planning to do swaps? Is that what Katich is doing? He's going to go swapsies if anyone else needs a keeper later on in the tournament.
Trade capital.
Where did you have him in your lineup, Rich?
I had him at 4. I mean, you could argue he should be opening. He has 282 runs in 9 innings in the Blast this year, including 136 against Northants a few matches ago, off only 65 balls. So he's very destructive at the top. I think it's just an embarrassment of riches. I just prefer Salt a little bit more, but I think it's a toss-up. Where do you go with Clark or Salt?
I'll go with yours. I'll call my favourite in a minute. Because at 5, I had Ackerman. Again, having a very, very good Blast season, averaging 30, I think, at the moment. Can bowl a bit as well. Down as South African on the 100 website, but in fact, Dutch international currently, played 19 T20s for the Dutch. Very successful, good experience, and I'd want him, I think, in the middle of the order there to add a bit of oomph.
Won't be counting as an overseas star then if he's playing as a Dutchman.
No, exactly. Unlike the 3 players that the Manchester Originals did lose to the Colpack rule changes in Parnell, Dane Villas, etc. I can't forget the third one. All went, but Ackerman's Dutch passport has kept him.
Yeah. If you want to learn how Brexit affects these squads, watch our video about the draft. It's a bit mind-boggling, but there you go.
On happier notes, from Islamabad United to Manchester United, I would have Shahab Khan at 6, the Pakistani leg spinner.
I've got him at 6.
And he actually captains Islamabad United, even though he's only 22. He's actually even captained Pakistan before. Just shows what a sort of wise old head on young shoulders he is. I think he's going to be valuable in the middle order there.
Yeah, we haven't got a huge number of Pakistani players coming over for the 100, which is interesting. But the Pakistani, the PSL is just concluded. He's had a decent knock there. I mean, it's been a good season for them. So I think he'll do well in the 100.
I think so too. At 7, I had Jamie Overton. I think might be recency bias and that idea that you should always bat well in front of selectors. But I was watching him the other night. Sorry, Middlesex.
He must have known. He got the nod that you were in.
Exactly, and he smashed 20 odd off of about 7 balls in a incredibly destructive hitting, and he's bowls quick at the same time as well. So I think very useful player to have in that role.
I can agree with Khan and Overton, definitely in 6 and 7.
Okay, so not many disputes so far. Quite similar.
No, I did have next up though perhaps a slightly more controversial choice at 8 in Tom Hartley. Again, talking about youngsters, this is a guy who's only played 1 season really, but I really like what I see from this guy. He's not much of a bat really, but so maybe I don't want him at 8. But he's a miserly bowler. And I think his average is about a 6.75, which if he can do anything like that in 100, that is going to be super useful.
Yeah. When would you bowl him? Up top, hold him back to the end?
I'd have him in the middle overs, I think, after the power play.
Just sort of try and slow it down.
Yeah.
So the question is, you've got Shab Khan who's probably going to bowl 20 balls. Then you have Tom Hartley as another specialist spinner. Would you have Matt Parkinson in your side as well in that scenario?
Yes, I would.
So you're going to play three frontline spinners.
Yep.
Wow.
Let's whack him up there.
Okay. Well, I'm going to. Yeah, I think they all offer something different, so I'm not a problem. And then you also have obviously Lockie Ferguson's got to get in there, and Steve Finn, who are my other 2 bowling options. So I mean that's a decent lineup of bowlers for me. But what do you reckon?
Well, I was just reflecting on the fact of what an embarrassment of riches at pace bowling New Zealand have when you think Lockie Ferguson can't get even near that team at the minute, and how good a bowler he is. That feels a little bit batting light for me. I would like to see an additional all-rounder in there. So for me, I would probably have
quite a long tail.
I would have either Madsen or Lammonby coming in at 7 in place of Hartley, because I would give Parkinson the nod. And I know who I'm trying to appeal to here, so I'm going to give Oli a stat that Wade Madsen is not only a very, very good cricketer, he's also played hockey 39 times for South Africa. So
he's in there. He knows how to play a proper sport.
Oh, this seems like a cheap trick.
Playing to your selector there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I'd probably go Ferguson, Parkinson, Finn, but I don't think it's that much. I'm interested to see how Finn goes. I mean, obviously he's a vastly experienced bowler. He's the captain down at Middlesex at the minute in the T20 format, and they've not had the best of times. But I don't think that's necessarily Finn's fault. But I think maybe not having to captain, taking that pressure off, I think might be good.
Just let him bowl.
Yeah, and so
Lockie Ferguson looks like a pretty astute signing. I've done quite well to pick him up in the end of sort of mid-season raffle. Go off, quick pick a player.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that he's not an upgrade on Kagiso Rabada, but he's a very decent replacement.
I think he's a good replacement.
Yeah,
I think there's not a lot between them. I'd like to see where they sit in the rankings at the minute, but no, I think it's as good as they could have done in terms of a like-for-like replacement and that sort of spearhead, quick opening bowler to come and get them off to a good start when they're in the field.
Happy with it, Ollie? Or are you going to shuffle it around a bit more?
No, I think that looks like a pretty strong side.
So it's Buttler, Salt, Pooran, Clark, Ackerman, Khan, Madsen, Overton, Parkinson, Ferguson, and Finn. No places on that lineup then for Lammonby, Hartley, or Gleeson. Presumably Lammonby being the option if Butler's carrying a bit of an injury.
Yeah, Lammonby can come in as an extra bat. You've got the spin option in Hartley, and then we should touch on Richard Gleeson. He's one of those players who kind of came late, played for many years at Cumberland, then ended up in the Northants team, had a good run at Northants, and in the last few years has been playing up at Lancashire. And he even actually made it into the 55-man England training squads last year. So, impressive for him to have come good late in his career and make it into the 100 too. So, and I could see him getting a game or two. So, bear in mind that Buttler could miss out.
You've got to take Buttler out of this, presumably at some stage in the summer. If he's involved in the Test series.
And
we're putting Clark up to open alongside alongside Salt?
Yeah, in that case, I think I would. And I think there's also the outside chance that Matt Parkinson gets called up as well to the Test squad if England looking for a leg spinning option. So yeah, they might lose a couple to England at some point.
And this is where I went with if I was thinking about if they're going to have a wild card option, I wondered whether they might have a look at Keaton Jennings to go in at the top of the order, because Lancashire lad, actually in reasonable nick, doing all right. I think he'd bite their hands off to go and have a chance to showcase himself in the 100.
It's interesting. It's interesting. We obviously talked a bit about Simon Katich being the head coach, but it's assistant coaches are Glenn Chappell and Mark Chilton, obviously, kind of the head coach and assistant coach respectively at Lancashire. So, they'll be having a good look at at what Jennings is up to in the T20. So they'll know if he's the replacement to bring in, or the wild card to pick. They're going to have him in the dressing room every week. So,
yeah. So I think, you tell me if you feel otherwise, but I think they're a good squad. I don't know if they're necessarily a winning squad. Any thoughts on that?
They feel like they've not quite got the players that some other squads have got. We just think, wow, that player could go out and win you this game on his own. But Butler, I guess, capable of doing that. But is he going to be around for the whole tournament? Might miss the start of it because he's injured, in the second half of it because he's playing for England. So, yeah, I kind of wonder whether I think they'll win some games, but will they win enough to get them through to the end stage? I'm not sure.
I think in Salt, Clark, Parkinson, you've got three guys who have sort of been in the periphery of England squads, or at least been in the conversation. So see how they go. I think you're right. They don't sort of have the standout that perhaps other teams do. But the thing I take away as we're going through these teams one by one is actually there's very few weak links in the. I think that's the concentrated talent pool. So be fascinating to see how they get on.
It will be, and that's something we'll follow as we're going through the tournament with regular updates and hopefully some live shows as well. So plenty to look forward to with the Manchester Originals. No Adam, no Eve. I don't know who Neve is.
Adam and Eve.
Yeah. But we look forward to seeing them first on the 21st of July in the opening game.
On the 22nd.
22nd, sorry, of course. It's the women playing on the 21st, and the following day in one of the few setups that isn't a double header.
Single headers, is that what we're
calling? Yeah, single headers. Let's go with it. But that's in the Oval as well, right?
That's right, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
So we'll see how they get on then. But until then, it's been a pleasure having you alongside. If you have enjoyed the content, please let us know what you think down below with a like, a comment, and even a subscribe if you're feeling generous. That'd be much appreciated. Ollie, thank you very much. Rich, a pleasure.
Cheers.
And we'll see you all soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.